Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Suranandana Braja Janaranjana. Jasuranandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamunatira Banachari. Yamunatira Banachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jasuranandana Brajanaranjana. Jasuranandana Brajanaranjana. Jasuranandana Brajanaranjana. Jamunatira Banachariya. Jamunatira Banachariya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Volume's down, my volume's down. Sri Radha Madhava ki, Sri Radha Giridhari ki. Ananti Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Krantara srimadbhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Premanandi. Hare Krishna Kristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani. Stay Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachani. Anya Vishesha Sunyavadi. Paskati Vishatarane. Here you go, sir. Thank you. So, let's see what we got here. Thank you. Nice crowd. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I like to think of myself being on, but I don't know about the microphone. I hope I'm on for your sake. Hare Krishna. I think, well, you tell me. Do you need more volume? Can you hear me now? Okay. Radhe 1 5 10 2 1 2. Hare Krishna. There we go. 5:10. Here we go. We got it. Haribol. So this morning, reading from the third canto, 32nd chapter, verse 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirya Chilabhubhari Ki Jai. Nunam Daivena Vihita Ye Chachuta Kata Shudham Hridva Srinvat Yasad Gata Purisham Eva Vidbhujaha Nunam Daivena Vihita Ye Chachutakata Sudham Hitva Srinvat Yasad Gata Purisham Eva Vidbhujaha Nunam Daivena Vihita Ye Chachutakata Sudham Hidva Srinvat Yasad Gata Purishamiva Vidbhujaha. You would like to chant? Nunam Daivena Vihita Ye Chachuta Kata Sudham Hidva Srinvat Yasad Gata Purishamiva Vidbhujaha. Nunam Daiva Vihita Kata Shudham Hidva Srinvat Yasad Gata Nunam Daivena Vihita Sudham Hidva Srinvat Yasad Gata Purisham Eva Vidbhujaha. Nunam Daivena Vihita Ye Chachuta Kata Sudham Hidva Srinvat Yasad Gata Purisham Eva Vidbhujaha. Dr. Zach, he's still working on getting things together. Okay. Synonyms. Nunam, certainly. Daivena, by the order of the Lord. Vihitaha, condemned. Ye, those who. Cha, also. Achuta, of the infallible Lord. Kata, stories. Sudham, nectar. hitva, having given up, shrinvati, they hear, asatkataha, stories about materialistic persons, purisham, stool, eva, like, vit bujaha, stool eaters, hogs. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Such persons, now this is referring to the previous verses, and they seem to be relatively nice people. Pious, trying to go to the heavenly planets and so on. Yeah. But such persons are condemned by the supreme order of the Lord, because they are adverse to the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are compared to stool-eating hogs. They give up hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord and indulge in hearing of the abominable activities of materialistic persons. Please repeat. Such persons are condemned by the order of the Lord, because they are averse to the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are compared to stool-eating hogs. They give up hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord and indulge in hearing of the abominable activities of materialistic persons. Purport. Everyone is addicted to hearing of the activities of another person, whether a politician or a rich man or an imaginary character whose activities are created in a novel. There are so many nonsensical literatures, stories, and books of speculative philosophy. Materialistic persons are very interested in reading such literature, but when they are presented with genuine books of knowledge like srimadbhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Purana, or other scriptures of the world such as the Bible and Quran, they are not interested. These persons are condemned by the Supreme Order as much as a hog is condemned. The hog is interested in eating stool. If the hog is offered some nice preparation made of condensed milk or ghee, he won't like it. He would prefer obnoxious, bad-smelling stool, which he finds very relishable. Materialistic persons are considered condemned because they are interested in hellish activities and not in transcendental activities. The message of the Lord's activities is nectar, and besides that message, any information in which we may be interested is actually hellish. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksulun Minitam Dena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Do I have your permission to speak? Okay. I thank my lucky stars that this wasn't the verse 2 days ago when those college students were here. Right. Straight sauce. There must be a reason people show up when they show up. Such persons are condemned by the Supreme Order of the Lord because they are adverse to the activities, or the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are compared to stool-eating hogs. They give up hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord and indulge in hearing of the abominable activities of materialistic persons. So there's a few verses I'd like to refer to here. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, because there's a comparison, I don't know if the word is dichotomy, but there's a comparison between two classes of persons. And comes to mind, first thing I remember is in the second chapter, Krishna brings this up. In the verse, Yanisha Sarvabhutanam. Thank you. That can be the wake-up bell. Okay. Tasyam jagarti samyami, yasyam jagarati bhutani, sanisha pasate munehe. You know that verse? Okay. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. So there's quite a difference here in these two types of persons. The general mass of people and the self-controlled. You say this, the introspective sage, those are the words that are given. And it's like day and night, like that. And there's no middle ground. They don't agree. So one understanding is that, well, just let everyone do whatever they want to do. You have your happiness and I have my happiness, so why are you all upset? Right? Of course, they get all upset with the devotees also. If you let us do our happiness is spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, right? So this philosophy actually is not a philosophy, it's a foolish idea. It's an impractical idea. They just let everyone do whatever they want to do. Then what do you do when you end up with someone like Hitler? What was his happiness? So this idea, just let everyone do what they want to do. You have no right to tell someone else what's right or wrong. Right? This is a pretty heavy verse here. You're calling people who subscribe to everything from Time magazine to KPBS to Motorhead magazine, or all the. You're calling them all stool eaters. That's pretty heavy, right? Calling them stool eaters. And they say they're condemned, right? If I go to the library and want to take out a whole series of Hardy Boys or something like that, or whatever, read those, I'm condemned. I'm like a stool eater. Such a nice book. Or Anne of Green Gables. Remember that book when you were a little kid? Anne of Green Gables. That's what it's called up there in Canada. It's a nice book, right? But here it's saying that such persons are condemned, because it says that such persons, we just mentioned in the previous verse, he's talking about people who are just pious. They're following the Vedic standards of karma kanda, and they're going to heaven. But here they're condemned. So throughout our literature, because at the very beginning of the Bhagavatam it says, Dharma protita kaitava. Something gets kicked out. What gets kicked out? The pages of the Bhagavatam. Cheating religion. What's a cheating religion? What do you think a cheating religion is? No, let's not get there. This is probably televised, or well, not televised, right? Or what do you call it nowadays? No. What are the principles of a cheating religion? Yes, that's it. Right on the. You hit it on. You get extra. What's Sadhana today? Extra helping of Mahabharat's Khichdi for that one. Ding. Okay. Yes. Real religion means to free the living entity from the cycle of birth and death. So, in the name of religion, if we're encouraged to stay in this material world, that's cheating. We're being cheated. Now, we'll go through the progressively. Another verse that came to mind is here in the second canto of the Bhagavatam. In the very beginning, when Sukadeva Goswami starts speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, because what was the question Maharaj Parikshit said is, what should one hear and meditate on at the time of death? He said, actually at all times, but specifically at the time of death, because he was given how many days to live? 7 days to live. So you only got 7 days, so you have to fill up your consciousness. It's like Dravida was in the back hall today talking to you, maybe someone else, about whatever we meditate on, we become. Like that. So what goes in the ear is actually is what formulates our consciousness more than anything else, more than what we see or taste. It's what goes in the ears. So there's a very important question that Maharaj Parikshit is asking. What should we be filling our ears with all the time, but specifically at the time of death? And when is the time of death? Has anyone gotten anything in the mail saying when they're going to die? You know, you get jury duty kind of stuff and life insurance. You know, when you get older, you get a complimentary membership to ARP and things like that. You know, things are coming, but does that mean young people don't die? We don't know when it's going to happen. We just don't know when it's going to happen. What is that? Well, there's some joke about a doctor saying, I got some bad news and some good news. I don't think it is, but the bad news was, I don't know, Mahabharat, you have to come out and tell everyone the joke. He told me that joke. Anyways, let's get to this. Maybe it'll come to me. The second verse in this chapter, this Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nrinam Santi Sahasrasaha Apashyantam atmatattvam griheshu grihamedinam. You know this verse? Okay, those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to the knowledge of the ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society, O Emperor. The lifetimes of such envious householders is passed at night either in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime either in making money or maintaining family members. Persons devoid of Atma-tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers. Like the body, children, and wife, although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. And this last one here, O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supersoul, the controller, and the savior from all miseries. So again, the contrast is given. The contrast is given, and it's admitted. The first line of the purport, Prabhupada says, everyone likes hearing about other people. Why is it you go to the checkout stand, they have all these magazines about people. Right? In fact, there is one called People, right? And you have the lives of the rich and the famous, and even people like hearing about, what does the word be? Nefarious, or what's the word it means? Famous for being infamous. Infamous, nefarious fellows, right? That's very popular, hearing about how degraded people, very degraded people, that's very common. So everyone likes to hear about someone, and it can be someone who actually exists or existed, or they make it up, right? You go to the movies, the novels, all these literatures are there, making up all these stories, just unbelievable. It's like my mother was here, she had some books she wanted to turn in. There's a place called Books. It's a used bookstore. One in there, she just turned them in. And it's like rows, and their specialty are novels, paperback novels. Just novels, just trash. Just stories people make up, right? Just make up all these stories. It's unbelievable how they do that in movies and things like that. Imaginary people, like that. Imaginary people. People love to hear about these things. They identify with them, right? They identify with them. So materialistic persons are very interested in reading such literature, absorbing their mind in such way, and they have no attraction for hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why they're compared here to this vidbhujam, stool eaters. Because a pig, you offer it something very nice. Some halava or something like that, they won't eat it. It's like, pooh. And they turn around and they go for the stool. What could be? Yes, like that. So, so to give up something that can benefit us and for something that will hurt us, there's a problem there. There's a problem. Let me read one more verse, a section of verses, then we'll talk a little bit, bring this up. This is, of course, I think everyone's probably, these verses came to mind when you heard the verse. This is when Narada Muni is speaking to Vyasadeva. A little bit of sauce. A little bit of sauce. That, you've compiled all the Vedic literatures, but you have not specifically glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, these are the famous verses. I'll just read the translations because of the time. You hear Dravida chanting the second one quite often when he comes in the morning. So, and he's describing about the two types of literatures, and there's two types of men. They're compared to two kinds of birds. What are those two kinds of birds? Crows and swans, yes. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. And Prabhupada talks about, this is the fifth chapter of the first canto. He talks about crows and swans are not birds of the same feather. They're completely different and they have different attractions. And then the next verse, this tadvag visargo janatag viplavo. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation full of transcendental words directed toward helping bring about a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. There it is. And there are some things in here I thought were amazing what Prabhu was saying. And Prabhupada in this purport compares it to jaundice. Someone had jaundice? You've been in India a long time. You've had jaundice, right? You had jaundice? Did you have jaundice yet? You're going to go back and get some? But one of the symptoms of jaundice is when you eat sugar, how does it taste? Very bitter, horrible. You don't like it. Now, is sugar naturally bitter and unpleasant? No, it's actually quite nice. But something's wrong with us. And therefore, when we try to taste the sugar, it's horrible. But it's interesting that sugar is actually one of the cures. You keep eating sugar, and gradually your jaundice goes away, and that sugar gets sweeter and sweeter, and then returns. You can actually taste its natural sweetness. So we're in a diseased condition of life if we are not attracted to hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the test of our Krishna consciousness is how attracted we are to Krishna in his many different forms, one of which, of course, is the transcendental descriptions of the Lord in the different literatures that we have. And of course that would mean also classes, lectures, and so on. Any time there's a gathering of devotees of the Lord describing and talking about Krishna Katha, are we attracted or not attracted? It was very interesting that Giriraj Maharaj, when he was here, he was speaking about the 10 offenses, and he mentioned a sidelight that one of the offenses is to blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. And one of the sidelights he made on that was to not regularly read Prabhupada's books, not to regularly read the Vedic literatures. That's an offense. It means we don't really want to read it. Like that, we don't want to read it. Thing is, we got to hear about someone, right? That's the point is, no man is an island unto himself. You ever hear that line? Who wrote that? It wasn't Vyasadeva, so we can go on. I don't know who. Poet. Maybe, I don't know, it's a poet. Where's Dravida when you need him? Hemingway. Like that. Okay. Come on in. So, we're social beings, and we always like to hear about other people. That's just natural. Maybe we're very self-centered and we just want to hear about ourselves. That could be also there. But that's just natural. So if we're not hearing about the Lord and the devotees, we're hearing about someone else. Like that. That's our happiness. And it's on one hand kind of mysterious that one would give up hearing about the eternal activities of the Lord and the Lord's devotees to hear about temporary persons and the temporary activities of this world. Now, if one's doing that, what does that mean? Our attraction is to stay in this material world and we become enlivened by hearing about. Get him prasad. Make sure. Go ahead, jump up, and just ask him to wait a moment, and you bring him some prasad. We like hearing about people who we can identify with and we become enlivened by hearing about them. Just like why do all people really get into sports? People are really into sports, right? Talking about it, this and that, and they get all excited. They identify with it, right? They're into sports, they hear about follow all the teams and this and that, right? People have their different things that really, really interest, and they really identify with it. So, to hear about the temporary activities and temporary people of this material world means this is who I am. This is who I am, right? Just like sometimes people get very, very involved in politics. God help them. But they get really involved in politics, like too much, right? They're always like maybe listening, like that. The politics, the different news stations, and like it's what ad nauseum, is that the word? All these different shows, these commentators. You got the conservative and liberal radio shows and this and that, and everyone's spouting out their opinion about the reason, all the different politicians and what the president's doing and the Senate and this and that and international news and things like that. But what is it? Today, tomorrow, it's all gone. People were doing that last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. You can be sure they're all sitting around in Rome talking about, what Caesar did last week. All right, so, we're going to war again, like that. Or just people just always just. But why? Because they want to identify with that realm of existence. So devotees don't. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was asked by the residents of Kulinagram, what are the symptoms of a Vaishnava, what was one of the things he answered? Asat Sangha Tyag. You know what that means? Asat Sangha Tyag. Give up the association of worldly minded people. And that doesn't mean you just stop chumming around with them on the bank of the Ganga. It just means also you're not, this is one way of a satsanga. We absorb ourselves in hearing about them, whether it's through literature or movies or radio or this or that. That's how we associate with materialistic persons. In fact, what is that? Janasanga is one of the causes of fall down, associating with materialistic people. And then you do that by just hearing about them, right? You hear about them. Because when you hear about other people, you start becoming like them. That's what Dravida was saying this morning, right? Just like the bringy insect, right? Right? He gets caught, the bug gets caught in there and starts meditating on the wasp, becomes a wasp. So whoever we associate with, whoever we meditate on, that's what we become like. In fact, Hiranyakasipu had a nice verse about that. He compared it to a crystal, right? Like that, however you turn it, it reflects the light. So in the same way, whoever we associate with, we become like them. So that association is by hearing and absorbing our consciousness. So that's one of the regulative principles, is no nonsense literature, Prabhu's nonsense literature, like that. Just none of that stuff, because it just completely absorbs the mind. We're trying to adjust our identity, readjust our identity, like that. So it's kind of a way to hold on. And the point is, the Vedic literatures especially are filled with so many wonderful pastimes, intriguing pastimes, ecstatic pastimes, dangerous pastimes. Any kind of pastime you want, and Krishna's done it in such a degree that it's because any living entity in this material world who does something amazing, where does he get that potency from? Parusham Nishu. Krishna says, I'm the ability in man. So who's a superhero? Well, Krishna's the supermost hero, but who's a superhero? Superman. Okay, so he can jump, a building. He can outrun a bullet. What else can he do in those comic books? Stop a speeding train. Right? He got a few things he can do, but do you think Krishna can do more than that? Right? So whatever he has is just an insignificant little from what Krishna. But still, we want to hear about Superman. This is amazing. People today, there's a big thing now, all these superheroes and semi-superheroes and all that. They want to hear about someone exciting and different and powerful, but you ask them, oh, want to hear about Krishna? No, thank you. No, thank you. Because hearing about all these people doesn't interfere with one thing. You know what that is? My false ego, that I'm also an enjoyer of this material world. But if I have to hear about Krishna, darn, I have to become the servant of Krishna. Because you hear about Krishna, you hear about everyone's his eternal servant. That's the problem. But and one last thing I wanted to touch on. This is a heavy verse, right?
Yes, the one we just read.
The one we just read. And there's some coming in here like that. So what about this? Because this is a type of preaching. Just I said, thank my lucky stars, those 3 students weren't here the other day. You think people think, wow, they call them people stool eaters and condemned. What does it mean? When we use the word condemned, what are we usually talking about? guilty, you're condemned like that to a life of hard labor in some gulag somewhere in Siberia. Right? You're condemned. You ever read that book? What is it? Black Salted Bread. You read that book? Torchlight published that when it first came out. Unbelievable. It's two devotees, you know. That's condemned. A condemned life, working in the salt mines or something like that. So condemned by the order, the supreme order of the Lord. It's like, fine, like that. And they just compare. Just because you don't like getting the Hare Krishna books, you're a stool eater, right? This is pretty heavy preaching. Please don't preach like this on Sunday in Balboa Park. So the point is, when something's wrong, how do we? When someone's doing something wrong, we have to be careful how we approach that, and best help them. So. Of course, Kapila Dev is speaking here. He's speaking to his mom. Kind of knows maybe the people who are hearing this. But there's a few things. One is, sometimes heavy words are given, but if they're given out of a genuine desire to help the person, and they know this person can take it, then go ahead. This person needs it. Just like Tirtha Maharaj the other day at breakfast, remember he was telling us that story? He was preaching in Croatia in his younger days as a brahmachari, and there's so many Sankirtan devotees, and there's not much population, so he decided to take these boats out, these little islands where people live, little villages on each island. So he went out there, and he's trying to distribute books, but no one was taking it, and people were really, really upset. And so much to the point where actually a mob started chasing him through the street like they're going to beat him up. And then he ran and ran, he jumped on the ferry just in time, and by the time they got to it, it was far enough out where they couldn't jump on the ferry. But what he found out was there was a Mataji there distributing books before him and lying to everyone about the books, saying they were required textbooks. And she sold a ton of books, but then the people found out they weren't required textbooks, and she had been doing this. So he complained to the temple president and Harikesh Maharaj, and what they did was they came down very, very heavy on this Mataji and took her off Sankirtan. He had to wash pots or something like that. There was some chastisement there. And he said it had to be heavy because if it was a light thing, she wouldn't have taken it because she's a very heavy personality, you know. But so chastisement sometimes given and sometimes has to be heavy if a person needs something heavy, you know. It's like Prabhupada said, I forgive you once, I forgive you twice, third time I take off my shoe. So, like that. So sometimes strong words are there, but one has to be careful, and it has to be given in a sense of compassion. Just like we have to understand, this is actually a very, very compassionate verse. You know, it's given, you know, just like a doctor may go, just like give the example of a boil. Someone had a boil recently. Who was it? You? Someone else had a boil. Maybe Pav or someone. I never heard. In the old days, you used to hear about boils all the time. They used to call them rich cooking. They call them Vaishnav. They used to call it a Vaishnav disease because of your offenses or something. No, it's because you're not clean. That's what it is. But it's very, very painful if you ever get a boil. You've had a boil? Very, very painful. And if you think I just blow on it, no, you have to take a knife and you got to cut it and move, and then you got to, you know, it's very painful and very painful. But sometimes that's what has to be done, like that. But if it doesn't have to be done, don't do it, like that. So we have to be very careful about how we instruct others, whether it's our position to instruct others, how much, how intense the instruction is. It's an art. It's an art on learning because the instruction has to be there if you want to learn something, right? You can't learn something if there's no instruction. You imagine going to class and you come to Bhagavatam class next Tuesday, I'll give class and I don't say a thing. Hey, how was class? Nectar. I slept through the whole thing. He didn't say a thing. I didn't hear a thing. Well, because he didn't say anything. So I didn't learn anything. If I don't say anything, right, we don't learn anything. I don't learn anything and you don't learn anything. So there has to be instruction. There's always instruction because we're in school. This is a school. We're learning how to be Krishna conscious, so there's going to be instruction. And we don't always do everything right. That's understood. Who showed up knowing exactly how to engage perfectly in the Lord's devotional service? See, no hands went up. So we all have to learn, and sometimes we do the wrong thing. Sometimes we do the wrong thing just out of innocence and ignorance. Sometimes we do the wrong thing because we're very, very lazy. Right? Even though we've been told many, many times, don't do this, not a good thing. It's an offense, it's unclean, and we keep doing it. So instruction is there. That's just natural. So instruction is there, but how to give instruction and how to receive instruction. Right? These are things we have to learn because it's always going to be there to the day we drop dead. And actually even after that, because guess what? It doesn't stop. Right? No, it doesn't stop. So learning how to receive instruction and how to give instruction is very, very important in life. Very, very important in life. Like that. So that was another point here. Like that. In the what is it? Ravinda Swarup tells a story that when he was first coming to the temple there in Philadelphia, he really liked devotees and Krishna consciousness. He was coming to the temple. He came to a Sunday feast, maybe one of his first Sunday feasts. And I remember that old temple. And the porch there was a big house, a big porch. And he came out and there was a sunset. He said, oh, that's a beautiful sunset. And when Mataji was next to him, he mentioned her name, God's sister. He said, so if you think it's beautiful, you're going to hell. Something like that. That's Maya. If you think that's beautiful, you're going to go to hell. And he's a guest, he's like, what? I'm just appreciating, of all things, just a sunset. I'm not like, looking at something, seedy or anything. It's just a sunset. He said, you're going to hell if you think that's beautiful. So we have to do better than that. So the point is making in the infancy of ISKCON, devotees sometimes were quite fired up about heavy-duty preaching and so on, but to be very careful. And a lot of times that heaviness is because we are trying to reinforce ourselves, feeling quite challenged by the material nature, but one has to be very, very careful, has to be very, very patient, like that. Trinadapi sunichena turori vasuhishnana manidamanadina kirtaniya sadahari. One has to be humble like the blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. So there's a few points there. So we can open it up for a little discussion if you like. Yes.
So how do you balance, like when I've been listening, I listen to a lot of Prabhupada lectures, and pretty much every single lecture Prabhupada always hammers in the same points, like generally ways. In the majority of lectures he will recite that shloka and enforce that point. But I noticed that in most of the lectures he doesn't he's like very direct and very straightforward, no matter who he's speaking to. So how do we balance the not, blowing people out of the water with even dying and but also not sugarcoating too much, like giving them the medicine but not shutting down the throat.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a point of discussion. One thing is about Srila Prabhupada. A few things. He's a self-realized soul. He's the guru, and he's also elderly. So he can say all kinds of things. I probably even told the devotees, I can say things you cannot, because of his age. People defer to him, respectful. Was it old men and children can go anywhere and say anything? People just kind of like that. Just like the other night during the initiation, that child right there up front. Now, if that was an adult doing that, I think someone would have stood up and done something. A little kid, Hare Krishna, and starts crawling in front of Maharaj. But if that was Janardhan, someone would do something about it, right? If it's an adult, but kids, you kind of like a little leeway until it gets a little bit crazy, So Prabhupada's position, he was a founder Acharya, and he was also speaking to, as far as the devotees, new devotees, and so on, and making, we're all neophyte, especially back then, very, very neophyte, and you have to get certain things straight in our heads about the nature of this material world, and those things have to. And Prabhupada is very, very strong at different times. But also, you hear room conversations, and Prabhupada is just talking to guests and so on. He's not hammering on them or whatever. So he knew exactly how to reciprocate with every kind of person, right? Exactly every kind of person. So. And we just have to understand our position and speak accordingly also, and don't think of ourselves as being, well, because I'm representing Prabhupada, I have to be just as heavy as he is in every single situation, because Prabhupada, immediately Prabhupada would adjust from one person to the next in the same room. The examples I was given is the two sannyasis in Vrindavan, right? Prabhupada's in his quarters. I don't know, it was Akshayananda Maharaj or something was there. And Prabhupada said, you should stay here, sannyasi, you should stay. I want you to run this temple, take care of things. And he said, just stay. And then another sannyasi came and Prabhupada said, oh, you should travel, you shouldn't stay. Sannyasi should always be moving and traveling. Two different instructions, completely different, within a matter of seconds, within a matter of moments. So according to time, place, and circumstance. Like that. Don't want to sugarcoat things, though. But certain things you may want to say at a certain time. You want to say the best possible thing you can to help someone in their Krishna consciousness. How's that? The best possible thing, and that comes with experience and your own realization. So the best possible thing you can pray to Krishna. What's the best possible thing I can say to this person to help with in their Krishna consciousness? Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Yes.
I was just going to also mention that in our naivety, we think that we read one thing and then we have the authority to speak on something. And so I remember Prabhupada where devotees were talking about this person trying Pandit about when I think of sex desire, I spit. Because they're treating me very badly. Prabhupada said, well, first you need to give up the sex desire and then you can spit. So you have to realize, like, when devotees, sometimes when we think we're on this level where we can preach really, really heavily, but you don't have the adhikar or something to back it up with, you know what I mean? So not only is it a way for us to preach so people can hear and advance their own Krishna consciousness, but also, as you mentioned with this one Mataji who was saying, if you think the sunrise is Maya, a lot of it is a self-reflection on ourselves.
Yes.
And you really have to internalize, like, where are you at in your own Krishna consciousness so that you can also progress. Those are the ways that you can.
Yeah, and Prabhu is receiving dictation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right here in SanDiego, in Balboa Park. The famous lecture there, Prabhu is speaking about Panchatattva and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he goes, what is he saying? What is he saying? And there's someone in the audience going, why sex just once a month? Some guess. So Prabhu says, since he is asking, then Prabhu turned the whole lecture into about that, right in front of all these people in Balboa Park. It's like, why that switch? And Prabhupada was bringing up the point, what's keeping us in this material world? Prabhupada says, since he's asking, like that, so you don't try to figure Srila Prabhupada out. Like that, but he's being directed by the Supreme Lord and he's speaking what we need to hear. What we need to hear. So we should try to do that the best we can. What does this person need to hear to help them? And it's like when these college students come, I always ask them, what is the course? And what are you what do you need to get from? Because you're just stopping in. What are they, it's like they can't understand all of Krishna consciousness, so try to help them. Instead of just talking for a half hour about, this, that, the other thing, and it just doesn't help them. So what do you really need to find out? Is it the culture, the chant, our practices? Narrow it down and really help them in what they're trying to find here. It's very important because you can't unload. You can't unload, the whole srimadbhagavatam on the person in 20 minutes. And he said, I just wanted to know why about vegetarianism. Oh. Just ask them, what do you need, what do you specifically are trying to find here? Yeah, how can we do that? Like that. Yes, Prabhu.
This is a simple question that I sometimes get asked, but it can be very broad. And I sometimes don't quite know how to answer it. But when people just ask, what do you guys believe in? Like, I don't quite exactly know what to say. Like, we believe in service to the Supreme, and we believe in a lot of things, but I don't know quite where to start.
There's only one God.
That is a big question, and I would turn around and say, what do you mean by that question? Is it you coming from the angle that religion is just belief? Let's talk about that maybe. Or, just ask them. I would turn that around, because you can go in all kinds of directions. We believe in all kinds of things. We believe the bigger the curd square, the better. And your subji. We believe in all kinds of things. The bigger the curd square and the subji, the better. That's one of our beliefs. So we believe all kinds of things. And the idea, underlying the idea when people say, well, that's what you believe, is that religion and spirituality is actually just a function of the mind. It's psychology. Religion has been, downgraded to just psychology. Hey, you got your belief, God's a big pumpkin, or this one's, or there is no God, or Krishna, or Jehovah, or Jesus, or, and that's cool. But, let's talk about it. Belief and reality and, besides what you believe and I believe, is there a way to actually investigate what is reality beyond, my belief and your belief? Is there something beyond your belief and my belief? Is there an objective reality that we should be trying to understand? So you can turn it around sometimes. Different thing. That's what I would recommend. Otherwise, it just gets in this whole long list of what we, and they go, oh, do you believe in a personal God? Or, how serious are they? Maybe they know something, like Dravida said. We believe in a personal God. Modern Hinduism really accentuates polytheism and personalism. We're not into that. That's destroyed Hinduism. There's a personal God, and there's a spirit soul. But it depends on how serious of a discussion they want to have. And they should see that you're a serious student, of spirituality. As long as they're thinking, you have your belief, I have my belief, everyone has their own belief, and that just leave it at that. Nothing, there's no advancement of anything. They're cheating themselves, Okay, so... And I've cheated you out of breakfast time, I'm sorry. So we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And maybe next Tuesday I won't say anything. We'll try that. Maybe a class in monism. And a class in monum. Mona, right? I'll just have a chalkboard. We had one guy come to Sunday feast. He brought a chalkboard. He was practicing that. Like that. Good. No, not a speaker, a guest. It'd be sitting in the Sunday feast. Can I have more subji? I don't know, but it's fun.